Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and of course, alongside me is none other than the hardest working woman in golf, LPG professional, Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy. Welcome.
Well, good morning, Ted. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Just want to make a note here to those tuning into the program that Cindy is off at the French Lick Resorts in French Lick, Indiana, for the Legends Championship. She's going to be reporting this week from there, along with our special guests today, and I'm going to tell you about those two ladies as well just a moment here. But let me just remind everybody, of course, we're live every Tuesday morning here at 9 a.m. Eastern Time at blogtalkradio.com. And quickest way to find us is just to go to blogtalkradio.com, type in Women of Golf up in the search key, and you'll get right to the program, and you can tune in for that hour every Tuesday morning. Also, you can call into the program during the live broadcast from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855. And you can also email any questions or comments to the program at womenofgolf@gmail.com. And you can also get a hold of Cindy Miller at her email at cindy@cindymillergolf.com if you want to get in touch with her. Got a great show for you. Very interesting. As I said, Cindy is off at the Legends Championship this week. Going to be competing, and actually all three of the ladies that are going to be on the program this morning they're competing this week. So good luck to all. And of course, I got to be honest, I'm a little biased. My favorite, I'm rooting for Cindy, but nevertheless, we'll talk about that in just a moment here. Joining us here in just a moment or two is Patty Rizzo, who's also at French Lick, going to be competing in the Legends Championship, and she's the head coach of the University of Miami women's golf team. She's going to be joining us here, and a little bit later on, LPGA professional Barb Moxness, who was on the show about a month or so ago. She's going to be coming on a little bit later in the show. But Cindy, tell us a little bit very quickly before we bring on Patty, just a little bit about what's the week's planned.
This week, today we have a practice round of where Barb Moxness and I are having a redemption match. We lost by a mile in Phoenix, but we're playing against Krista Johnson and Kitty Robine. So hopefully we make a bunch of birdies today and kick their butts. Tomorrow, the LPGA Golf Clinics for Women is having a big, huge clinic with a bunch of women, and I'm going to be teaching. We teach the women in the morning for executive women and or women just learning to play golf that feel comfortable learning how to play. And we teach them in the morning. We have lunch, and then we take them out and play a little bit on the afternoon on the Valley Links course here at French Lick. There's three golf courses on the property that they own: the Donald Ross course, the Pete Dye course, which is where we're going to be playing, and the Valley Links is like a little practice academy. This facility is absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. It's going to be the host of the 2015 PGA Senior Championship, or Senior PGA Championship, if you will. It's one of the hardest golf courses I've ever played. But so tomorrow is the LPGA Golf Clinic. Thursday's the Pro-Am, and the tournament is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with 48 of the best LPGA players in the world over the age of 45 years old, and then I think there's six of the super seniors who are over the age of 63.
Wow.
The purse is $450,000, which is huge for us. Some of the people playing: Nancy Lopez, Sandra Haney, Jane Blaylock, Patty Sheehan, Pat Bradley, Sandra Palmer, Donna Capone, all the great names of the past. Joanne Carner, Laura Davies. Yeah.
Wow,
so
fantastic.
I'm just thrilled and honored to be eligible to participate.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm jealous and envious. I wish I was there to take part in some of the action. I'm sure it's going to be over the next few days. Cindy, let's bring on, if we can, Patty. I know she's waiting here for us. Let me just to let the audience know again, Patty Rizzo, of course, the head coach of the University of Miami women's golf team, and she's also a collegiate All-American. Was a collegiate All-American at the University of Miami and a 20-year veteran on the LPGA. And she's now in her fourth year as head coach at the University of Miami for the women's golf team. So let's bring her on the show and talk to Patty for a little bit. Patty,
hello,
welcome to the
hi.
Women of Golf. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing great. Cindy is here. Yes, we can. Certainly can.
Okay, great.
Cindy's here as well, and I understand.
Good morning, Patty.
Hi,
Thank you
Cindy.
for doing this.
Hey.
Okay. As we mentioned in the beginning, three, Cindy and Patty, and of course Barb, who's going to be joining the program a little bit later, are in Indiana at French Lick, getting ready to compete this week at the Legends Championship. But first, let's talk a little bit. Patty, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the University of Miami's women's golf team. Just talk about, obviously, you originally went to the University of Miami, and as you indicated in some of your bio notes, that you're sort of coming full circle. Tell us a little bit about your coaching job at the university.
Well, it's been. I feel very fortunate that after having a wonderful professional golf career, I had the opportunity to come back and like you read in my bio, I kind of went full circle. I started at University of Miami playing college golf and had a very successful junior golf career, so decided to turn pro and went out and played the tour. And then I thought, after the age of 45, I was kind of like, what am I going to do now? And I really got fortunate enough to be able to start coaching and to go full circle. I felt even more lucky, I think, just because of the experience of playing the tour and dealing with people and on a recruiting aspect of it. I was very fortunate to get a head coaching job with really no previous coaching experience before that. Actually, no real life experience before that. All of a sudden, I had to learn to do budgeting and transactions and ordering and births and everything else. And I was like, what is all this stuff? I just had a credit card that I kind of whipped out on to pay for everything. And so it was a very big learning process for me. But getting into coaching has been so rewarding because I've been able to give to these young girls all the experience and all the things I've learned over the years being a professional golfer. And it's just a really exciting environment. I just really love what I do now.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, I know that, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment, Cindy had both yourself and myself do an assessment, and we're going to talk about that a little bit and sort of how you would apply something like that to some of the girls on the team. But what are some of the things that you really enjoy most about working with your team? What are some of the things, obviously you have a lot of different personalities and a lot of different types on the team, but what are some of the real interesting things that you enjoy about your job?
I guess the biggest thing and the most rewarding thing is seeing progress, when they come in, how they're kind of young and a little naive and quite innocent, and they lack experience, and then to just kind of mentor them and head them in the right direction, and encourage them to try to become better and better each year. Nothing happens overnight, and to just have a positive forward, go up the graph instead of down, And when you see them really go from kind of a young teenager into a woman, which in that 4 years, it's a huge change from, 17 to 20 or 21. And by the end, you just, I personally feel like they're my own. And, then I get real sad that they're going to be leaving and going away. But it's just really nice that they do respect me and they appreciate, what I have to tell them. And they always try, which I really, I don't get a lot of resistant players. They're very willing to try to do what I try to coach them. And when you see progress, it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
Patty,
what do you
can
think,
I ask
Patty?
you a question?
Sure.
How do you go about recruiting and finding the right girl, student, player that you believe will fit into your culture? Because I'm sure there's more players than spots available. And how do you go about making decisions on which one you prefer to bring in?
Well, I'll tell you, Cindy, first, to be honest, initially we pay a lot of attention to their results to start out. And if you want to become the best team in the country, then you have to go after the best players in the world. And that's basically what we initially do. We get their stats. We find out their rankings, their junior golf ranking. We check what events they played in. I mean, a local high school event is not going to be of that much importance to us versus a USGA junior, event. So the quality of the events, the length of the courses. Once we see the scores, then we get video. We look over, the players' swing, some demeanor, some pre-shot routines, things, and see their consistency and read their bio. Were they athletic before? Was golf in their only sport? So we start to get into them more personally, and then if we're still interested, we actually fly to wherever we can see them play. I actually just came from Slovakia a couple weeks ago. People are like, what are you recruiting in Slovakia? Well, Slovakia had they had the European Team Championship hosted there with the 5 best players from each country in all of Europe. So I went over there and I wound up finding quite a few players that I like. Now, I think having experience on tour of seeing certain characteristics in players that make winners, which you probably know, Cindy, because you were around that too, you kind of start to pinpoint those characteristics. And for me, I kind of reflect back to the players on tour that were successful in their demeanor and their behaviors and their emotional control. And once I start to recognize that when actually observing and evaluating them, then we contact them. And we say, we'd love you to come play for us. We give a scholarship offer, and hopefully they say yes. And that's how you get the best players.
That's funny that you say that, because we just finished a 12-part series called Own Your Game, where we went through the 8 traits of champions, my golf psych report, if you will, and the ability to focus, widen and narrow your focus, your thought control, your mind management, emotional stability, self-sufficiency, and dominance. So I'm thrilled that you're talking about all this, because Alan and I happen to teach a lot of juniors, and one of the things we tell them is that, your body language on the course while you're playing, you might think it's cute, but if you have a coach watching you and they're watching 3 different players in a group and you start acting like that, you're first off their list.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Because they don't need somebody that's, hard to deal with and that's going to bring the whole team culture down.
Right. That's so true.
So what else do you look for?
Rick, did you want to say something? Hello?
No, she was asking you what else you look for, Patty, in a player.
Oh, well, that's that's mostly it. I mean, I personally, I just they're in real superior athletes, they just have a little something that I can't really tell you exactly what it is, but when I look at it with my eyes, it's very visible to me. We had a new player come in this year, Dani Darquilla. She's from Ecuador. And I told my assistant last year, this girl is going to just be an amazing player before she ever teed it up for us. And there was just something about Dani that I really knew, and I truly believe that when she finishes college, she will do really amazing on the LPGA. But I just said to my assistant, there's something in this girl I see. I can't totally explain it, but I've seen it in winners. And Dani wound up with a 73 stroke average in 13 events this year. She made All-American. She's not only a great athlete, she's a great student. She's just so well-rounded, and everything about her is it's just amazing when you think that's what you see, and then you actually see it blossom. And Dani's just played phenomenal this year, and Cindy, I can't really tell you exactly what it is. There's just a winning aura around certain people, and I feel fortunate enough that I can kind of see that. So hopefully the rest of my recruits will be just as good as Dani, and we'll win nationals in a couple of years.
Well, that would be great, because needless to say, I love the U, because that's where I went as well. And if it wasn't for Norm Parsons, our head coach, who happens to be retiring next month after 43 years at the University of Miami, this man allowed me to walk on the golf team, and had he not stuck to his word and allowed me to compete at the University of Miami, we wouldn't be sitting here on a radio show right now. So I am so grateful to the University of Miami and Norm Parsons that, he gave me the chance to prove myself. It's just amazing. But I want to talk a little bit about our assessments here.
Okay.
The team report, and I know you had mentioned to me that you think you're a little more contemplative than analytical, but I think you're very reflective, and I think you need to be that to be able to choose the right player. So I personally believe you're in the perfect job for what you do. I love you. I would love you as my coach. I think you're nice, you're supportive, you're caring, but yet you can be analytical and you can take charge when you need to. The team report that I did with Ted, you and I, if you notice, we're all in a different quadrant almost on the thing. What we're talking about is the DISC, the DISC profile. D being very driven and dominating, and I being very influential, people person, outgoing, the S being very supportive and steady, and the C being very analytical and cautious. You will find that there are players on tour that are winners that are all of these different personalities. So your personality doesn't dictate whether or not you're a winner. It's all the other skills, the emotional control, the focus, the self-sufficiency, the dominance. Would you agree with that, Patty?
Yes, totally.
Because you've got Annika, who might be a high C. You've got Suzanne Pedersen, who's definitely a high D. You've got Christina Kim, who's definitely a high I. And you've got Jason Duffner, who is the epitome of an S. And all of those people have won, major championships or tournaments. So,
Cindy, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
What I was going to ask you is, with respect to the assessment, how can this information be sort of applied, if you will, or used by somebody like Patty in her position? How how beneficial could this information be to know the different types of not just the personalities, but where they sort of fit in this assessment, if you will? How would this benefit somebody like Patty?
Well, it will do is it will show Patty the different personalities on the team and where conflicts might arise, because basically she changes her family every year. When she has seniors who graduate and freshmen coming in. So she's like, okay, the family culture is going to be changing a little bit. Who's coming in and who's leaving, and how is that going to affect how we all get along with each other? So this is a great team building exercise to do so that people are aware where people sit on the profile. One of the things that we have done with a lot of golf teams, Alan and I, because Alan and I are total opposites. I am a big D and Alan is a big S. And we, again, I fell in love with him because I saw all his strengths are peaceful and steady and nice and slow golf swing, and I'm like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And when I first saw him play on the PGA Tour, I was like, oh, wow, I wish I could be that steady and comfortable and smooth and slow. And, so you fall in love with this strength of his. And then when you marry him, you want to kill him because he's so slow and steady. You fall in love with him and then you think it's a weakness. Which you're laughing because you know that. But,
yeah. And also, too, Cindy, let me ask just another question, if I might, with respect to this report. I could also see it being very beneficial for Patty, let's say, in a situation where there might be some match plays going on. Knowing what her players are, she can sort of manipulate, really, who she wants to put at what particular point in the tournament. Maybe she might want a more assertive or more aggressive individual up front, or maybe at the back, or so forth, and maybe matching a more supportive player together. She might have that more dominant or aggressive player, and maybe match them with somebody who's very supportive, so that they can sort of work. They are opposite, because I think if you had two Ds, let's say, playing on the same team, that wouldn't be a good mix, would it?
Well, it could be a good mix as long as they're aware of it. So right now I'm at the end reports, and I've got all three of our reports up on the screen, and I'm at 12 integrated compass behaviors in the natural graph, which on the PDF is page 11 of 12. Now, Patty's second most moderate intensity, high to moderate intensity, is cautious, accurate. Okay. Her first one is reflective, which that's that inner thing. She's got that discernment, which is really a great skill that she needs for the job she has. And that's where I think you say, Patty, that you're more contemplative. Her second one is cautious. Now, yours, Ted, your first one is self-assured. Your second one is sociable. Now, mine is self-determined. And so it's like, no, let's go. I've had enough. Let's get this done. And so Patty needs to be able to see in the team, like you said, in the pairings, who do I put as number one? And who do I put as the steady, Jim Furyk, Jason Duffner, da-dum, da-dum, the same thing over and over. Who's the tortoise? Who's the hare? Where do I want to place this? And because Patty's reflective gift, she's going to be very good at figuring out who plays where. Would you agree, Patty?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, your chart is going to be extremely helpful to reassure my estimated guess, more or less, because right now I don't have your chart, so I just kind of figure all those personality traits out myself just by being around the girls and observing them on the course. And I can kind of say, well, Danny's more subdued and laid back and goes with the flow, and Rika's more contemplative and assertive and aggressive, and and persuasive. And so what's going to help a lot with this year, Cindy, is women's college golf is starting to go into match play very much like the men's golf has. And so we have a couple match play events this year for the first time, and Nationals is going to be match play. So,
oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so this is going to be huge. As you said, for placing which player in what position, it's going to be really helpful at this point, with us starting to play more match play. So I'm kind of glad we're doing this now.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's obviously going to be situations, regardless of what information you may have, that things just don't work out. I remember back in the Ryder Cup some years ago when Tiger and Phil were matched together, and everybody thought this was going to be a great pairing, and it actually ended up having the opposite effect. So obviously, sometimes the science doesn't always work that way, but you can certainly see, Patty, that this would be a great tool for you as a coach to be able to assess your team and kind of get an idea. I mean, you can certainly use your own intuition, if you will, and your own insight, but having this sort of analytical information, I could see, would be very beneficial as a coach on a university team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really cool to see how it works out.
How do you believe that the players would feel about this? Do you think that this would help get the elephant to be exposed? I
think the players, one of the most important things I try to tell each individual player is no two of you are the same. And it's very important to know the type of person you are to know how to handle yourself on the golf course. And, I actually had a long chat with one of my girls from Argentina who gets a little hot-headed out there. And, I'm telling her, you don't have to change because that's your personality, but you have to learn to manage it. And you have to, deal with it at the moment. Go ahead and get mad for 10 seconds, but you have to learn to move on, to let it go and to move on. And by her knowing a little bit more about her personality, not just what I tell her, because she's probably thinking, well, that's just your opinion, coach, So having some, a little bit of statistics to back it up. I mean, she is more of a analytical type person, so she would definitely, if she saw it in the chart, she'd believe it a lot more than hearing it from me. So yeah, I definitely think that's one way that it would help out with the players.
Well, I have to give a little disclaimer here because part of the reason that I became certified as a behavior analyst is because this information did in fact save my marriage to Alan. I did file for divorce. This is a big deal because we are so different, and it's funny because Alan. It's quite timely that we discuss this because Alan's a recovering alcoholic, and in fact did try to attempt suicide this day after the Robin Williams apparently did that, and I think it's very sad. And one of the things that we do with this is our junior students is once they are aware of who they are, if they have a parent, which, Patty, you can attest to this, who's pushy and tries to make them be a Tiger Woods or an Annika or a Lorena, Michelle Wie, it will help the student or the player realize that they are who they are, and their parent may be pushy and controlling, but they cannot be someone they're not. And I that this could save a lot of hassles, energy, depression, whatever you might call it. I think it will expose again the elephant in the room and help people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cindy.
Yeah,
so
Patty,
I
let me ask you
just to take it.
Yeah, let me just ask you very quickly, Patty, and then because I know that you have to go. In a situation where you look at your team and you see the differences in that, and obviously you get to know over time their strengths and their weaknesses. There's obviously going to be times when, based on your experience, you may want to guide or move them in a different direction. What do you say to yourself, or how do you prevent yourself from maybe, as Cindy just indicated, maybe being that sort of parent, if you will, and maybe being a little bit too aggressive and too pushy on some students? What do you do to sort of rein yourself back in when you need to?
Well, I think the important thing of dealing with student athletes, but teenagers in general, is I try to let them find the answer for themselves, because I know trying to tell a teenager to do something, they think, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're too old, or you're, you know, it's and I have to admit I was that way too when I was in college, and my, you know, my coach would want to tell me something, and I'm like, oh, I'm better than her. I already play better than her, you know. And the one thing I have going for me is my success on the tour and my record. If I didn't have that, I don't think they'd listen to me at all. To be honest, it's like, you know, these young kids, they just think they, you know, it's like teaching my son to drive. It's like, oh, Mom, this is easy, you know, like. So it's just a matter of. I just think really getting them to find their own answers, but being supportive and throwing ideas back at them to where they go, oh, yeah, well, maybe that would work for me. You know, to me, it always has to be their idea. And I just try to manipulate a way to get them to come up with the answer I'm looking for. So it's kind of like going, it's like kind of like going through the back door, you know, because I'm not very assertive. Assertiveness is probably my biggest weakness, if you want to call it a weakness, because I think the minute you try to make a teenager do something, they're going to rebel. So it's got to be their idea, and that's pretty much how I deal with it.
Or at least you have to give the illusion that they think it's their idea.
Yeah. To manipulate
go ahead,
them to think it's their idea.
Well,
exactly.
I think you're absolutely brilliant. And I think whatever you're doing, it's working, because you've gone up the stats amazingly. And I wish you good luck, and it's great to see you, and I'm very proud of what you've done for the U.
Well, thank you, Cindy, and I think that what you're doing is really awesome, too, and we'll get together after this and get my players to take this analysis chart here, and we'll get them to do your little disc compass and find out for themselves. Like I said, they have to see it and prove it. So let's let them see exactly the type personality they are. And then when I tell them stuff, they might agree a little bit more, because they'll say, oh, yeah, well, that's true. I am assertive.
That's right.
So that's perfect, Cindy, and I wish you all the best, and thanks for having me on the show, and take care.
Okay. See you this week.
All right.
You too, sweetie. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. All right. That was Patty Rizzo, head coach at the University of Miami for the women's golf team, and we thank her very much, and much continued success with the team. And we've got waiting here your partner, if you will, for today. Cindy, if you want to introduce Barb.
Well, I first met Barb Moxness, holy cow, I think it was 1980, or 79. We played on the LPGA Tour together, and again, it was one of those people that I saw who just floated down the fairway and never seemed to be, what do I want to say, in conflict with themselves. She's been my friend forever. I love her to death. She was voted the LPGA top teacher by Golf Digest magazine. She's 4th on career points list for the Legends Tour. She's finished in the top 10 in all the LPGA majors, including the U.S. Women's Open, the Dinah Shore, the LPGA Championship, the Du Maurier Classic. And she just recently won the Judson Collegiate Invitational on the Legends Tour in Atlanta. And I'm so proud of her, my friend and partner in crime, Miss Barb Moxness. Thanks for joining
us. Good morning. Thanks for having me. Good to hear you again.
Good morning. Actually, welcome back, Barb. You were, of course, on the show a little while ago, and welcome back. I thought it would be interesting, and I said to Cindy off air, Barb, that I would ask the two of you, since you're going to be paired up today in a practice round. What is your strategy? Have you guys got a strategy worked out? I'll let each of you. Barb, I'll let you go first, and Cindy, what?
I think our strategy is just to win. we got our butts kicked last time. We have to revenge. Not revenge, but we need redemption out there. I don't know what that's going to look like. We'll kind of sort that out as we go through the round, but I think that's what we want to do.
Ted, I can tell you one thing, that once competitive, always competitive. And it's funny how we're all friends out here, and it's I'm so grateful that I get to see all my buddies from 30 years ago, because it's just amazing that this game you can play for a lifetime, and I'm so grateful for Jane Blaylock and the Legends Tour and everything she's done to help the tour grow, and Barb's on the board right now. But it's great to be with friends. But I can tell you that when the gun goes off, the faces change and everything else goes by the wayside.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what anybody says. As soon as they get on that first tee, they're ready to go. The engines start. It's like a racehorse trying to get out. Here we go again. Let's go.
Yeah. I love you, but I want to kick your butt.
And
anyway,
I think a big part of that too is it's just competition in some ways with yourself. I mean, you're putting yourself again on that arena where you go, where am I right now? Where's my game? Who am I? How am I going to deal with this? And to me, that's the most intriguing part.
To me, that's the only reason I'm here, is because, again, I can speak from a different place, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I of course I would love to win the tournament, but as I keep trying to strive to get better and pursue my potential on the golf course, last year when I left here with my tail between my legs, I thought, I played 3 rounds of golf with my butt cheeks clenched together. This is so hard of a golf course. When I heard how most of the, Laura Davies and Lori Rinker and Lori Kane were reaching all these par 5s and 2, and I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? The reality set in, and again, we just finished a 12-part series called Own Your Game, and it's like, you know what? My game doesn't reach the par 5s and 2. I have to have a different strategy of defensive golf down the middle, plop, 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 which makes me play more like a tortoise when I'm really a hare, so I have to adapt my behavior. But on the other hand, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So tell us about you and winning at Rosie's event, because, you hit it a little farther than me, but you're not Laura Davies.
No, I'm not. I call it assertive conservative golf because I don't hit it as far. A little bit like Zach Johnson, played the Masters and never went for a par 5 but won the tournament. Well, he played assertive within his capacity, and that's kind of how I try and do it myself, is take what I can do, be as good in it as I can be, but knowing I'm playing a little more conservative than everybody else, probably. But the Rosie event, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Tell us about Rosie's.
The Rosie event was very interesting because it's a really hard golf course. It's Roswell Country Club, and there aren't too many places to miss it there. And so it's a one-round deal, and you don't want to make mistakes, but yet you have to play assertively. So it's kind of that balance of the two. And I was fortunate that I made a bunch of putts that day, and then we got in the playoff, and the last hole is a par 5, which they set up so that you can reach it in 2, and I was able to reach it in 2. We played the playoff hole twice, and I hit the green both times and was able to put pressure on the lady I was playing with, Alicia, and ended up winning on the second playoff hole because I just had about a 10-footer for eagle, and she had a 25-footer for birdie and missed it. So it was that was fun for me to be able to hit the par 5 and 2, which doesn't happen a lot.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so that was really fun.
Let me ask Barb, if I could, since the two of you are going to be playing today, if you could, and you obviously know Cindy very well, and you know her playing style and her sort of thought process. If you could sort of tap into her psyche or her unconscious mind, should we say, what would you say to her in preparation for today? What would you advise her on?
Well, I do quite a bit of teaching myself, and I've kind of come to some conclusions watching my students and some really good players who struggle, in that I think we need to bring golf down to very simplistic process. Because what happens when you get on the golf course is all of these outside agencies you start to see things. You start to see out of bounds. You start to see water. You start to see yourself being inept, and you start doubting yourself and all that kind of stuff. So you got to bring golf down to the bottom line where you can go, I can do that. That's the one thing I can do. If I keep it at that level and make it that simple, I find success in that one shot, and then I bring it down to the bottom again, and I do it again, and I do it again, and I do it the whole way around that way. Now, it's like looking through a camera and focusing and seeing just that one thing, and everything else gets blurry. Or looking through binoculars and focusing on that one thing that I need to do. So I've come up with a little kind of mantra that I have that I've been using with some people, and it's called see the spot, find the slot,
Excuse me,
and hit the shot. And when I focus the binoculars on seeing that spot that I have to go, because my body needs, and my neuromotor system needs the spot to know where it's going, then I find the spot with my golf swing. That's the only thing I ever have to do. And I just hit the shot. So I bring it down to the bottom line, and I can do it more often than not that way.
Right. Very good.
And you know
Cindy,
what?
I want to ask you.
That's a great thing, because yesterday Alan and I played practice round. We got here, and I'm, on an endless pursuit of trying to answer the question why. Why do I do what I do? And what he said was, why don't we find where it's best to hit the shot and not worry about the pin? Because I focus too much on pinpointing. He says, look, hit the ball in the ocean. Don't try to hit the whale. So if I fine-tune it, I choke because I try too hard to hit it to a certain a minute spot instead of an area, and then I give myself permission to miss it. So on this golf course, you've got to find your safe zone, if you will.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you got to find the safe zone, and you got to trust and hit it to that safe zone, or you're going to make triples.
Yeah.
And so
what you've done is make the spot a little bit bigger to ease the pressure, but you've still given yourself that ability to have something to focus on, which and not just make it a little bit easier to focus on it. You backed off on the focus a little bit.
For me, because I lock up when I try to protect. So instead of focusing on where you don't want to go, I'm saying I'm only going here and there's room for error. Because if there wasn't room for error, I lock up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again,
Cindy, let me.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Cindy, I wanted to ask you. While the two of you were talking, I was sort of reflecting on your series, Own Your Game, and earlier on we talked about having a time in the round where you needed to have a more narrow focus, and other times you need to sort of widen that focus. And sort of using yourself, I want you to explain that analogy with yourself. Do you feel that maybe part of the issue has been that maybe there's been too much of a narrowed focus, as you just indicated, throughout the round, and maybe you need to find a balance of widening that focus at times, do you think?
I think I've changed my process, and I would agree, Ted. I guess what I'm saying, no one has tried harder that's willing to share how vulnerable she is to gagging her guts out than me, I believe.
Yeah.
There's other people that try hard, but they're not going to tell you about it. So I'll
tell you about it.
Well, true. Barb and I both. I mean, we both are willing to be transparent to help people learn to play better. And so I've taken the golf psych assessments. The guy said to me, "Oh my gosh, you rate higher than 99% of the tour players that play the game within your personality to be able to be a champion." I'm like, okay, so why am I not? What's the issue here? So part of it is belief and trust, but also I think it's not having a game plan and the shoulds. Well, I should do this. Well, no, you really shouldn't. What's the best process for Cindy? And what can Cindy feel comfortable with no matter what's going on? And I have tried to find this for 45 years. So, when people are struggling, I'm empathetic because I'm like, I'm right here with you, buddy. It just at a different level. So I think I have found something that might work for me. And again, I'm not complaining because I'm lucky enough to be in the top 50 women players over 45 in the world. But that's the beautiful thing about golf.
Right.
I'm trying to get better, as is Barb, as is Patty. I mean, we're all shifting states, and we go from whatever we're doing and teaching and coaching, and now we're competing. But for me, I think it's this area rather than a pinpoint shot at the pin, and then I blow it. So I think I'm going to be more comfortable hitting to an area which is a little bit out of my personality. I'd rather fire it at the pin. And Barb and I know each other very well. We played in the BJ's Charity Championship as a team and came in 7th, didn't we?
Yeah, maybe even higher than that. We played good. We shot 13 under as a scramble one day, which is
And I
wow.
said to her, again, the first round was best ball. We shot even par. I mean, that's terrible. And the second round, I said, we're birdieing every hole today. And she just looked at me. I said, just shut up and let's go.
Yeah, let's go. And we did. We birdied almost every hole.
Yeah, we did.
I just followed her instructions.
So let's do that today.
Yeah, you tell me, I'll do it. Oh,
okay.
So for me, my process is a little bit different. Go ahead, Ted. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear this.
My process is a little bit different because my mind needs to be much more specific on a spot in order for my body to work better. So I have to focus on a spot, but I don't necessarily focus on the pin. In fact, I very rarely focus on the pin in any shot that I hit. It's all about finding that spot where I can create the shot as opposed to focusing on the pin or the result. And that frees me up.
Right.
So
now,
we're a little bit different
playing
that
together,
way.
Obviously each of you have different strengths and different weaknesses, and you've known each other long enough to sort of be able to assess what they are. How are you going to sort of gel everything together today? Obviously, all kidding aside, we want you to win, and you certainly want to win. But how do you sort of mesh that together? How do you sort of say to one another, okay, Cindy, I know that your area of strength is over here, mine's over here. How do we sort of work together to make a complete package, if you will? How do you put that together, Barb?
I don't exactly know how to answer that because we're each going to be playing our own game, but I think my biggest role in any team thing is to be the biggest cheerleader I can be and to cheer on my partner, encourage my partner, and you kind of get the ebbs and flows. Everybody goes through that of how the team's going, if your partner's feeling good about what she's doing or feeling a little down, and you got to work with the team and try and keep each other on a nice, even keel, working together. So I like to just be an encourager.
Yeah, we have to sit back and let each other play our own game.
Yeah.
Right. Do you try to and Cindy, I'll let you answer or at least initiate this one. Do you try to come out with a little bit of an intimidating factor against your opponents? Do you try to do anything that way?
No. I don't.
You're laughing.
No,
but do you
I
know what I'm
never...
saying? Like,
if you knew us together, you'd look at us and go, "What? They're going to be intimidating?" right? I mean, we're kind of those nice people, you know.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna cheer for our opponent. We're gonna go for our opponent. So sorry you missed that putt.
So in other words, you're going to kill them with kindness.
Exactly.
All kidding aside, ladies, obviously I wish both of you the best of luck this week, and particularly today. And just sort of to sum up a little bit about your play today, you obviously know the course from last year. You know some of the areas that you met with most difficulty. How are you going to try and tackle some of that today? And Cindy, I'll let you go first.
Well, again, I've got a game plan set out, and the competition is within me, and I'm going to try to follow my process and play to my game plan, and then whatever happens, I cannot control the end result. So I'm
not sure. Cindy, did you hear me?
Yeah. Can you not hear me? Hello?
I'm not sure if we lost Cindy or not. Barb, are you able to hear me at all?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, did we lose you? Cindy, can you hear me?
No, I'm not able to hear either one of them. I'm not sure what happened, whether the calls got dropped.
I'm here, Ted. Can you hear me?
Well, I'm not sure what's happened here. Just checking to see. It looks like we've lost the two of them here, and I'm not sure, ladies, if you can still hear me or not. But it looks like the calls have been dropped. Apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. That we've having some technical difficulties here, but bear with me, and we'll see if we can get them back. And obviously, Barb and Cindy are going to be playing at the Legends Championship starting today. They're going to be playing a practice round today, and we want to wish them the best of luck. And we're actually just in the last few minutes of the program, and as I said, I'm not sure whether or not they're able to hear me or not. But ladies, if you can, I think what we'll do is we'll end it on this note, and I apologize again for the difficulty in these last minute or two of the show. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Women of Golf show. And again, I apologize for this last minute difficulty. But I want to thank everybody. I want to thank our special guest, Patty Rizzo, the head coach at the University of Miami's women's golf team, and also for Barb Moxness, Legends Tour player. And her and Cindy are going to be up at the Legends Championship today and the rest of this week, competing against their fellow competitors at the French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana. So I want to wish them luck, and I want to thank all of you for tuning into the program each and every week. Cindy and I want to take this opportunity to thank you, the listeners from around the world, for tuning into the Women of Golf, and we look forward to certainly having you join us each and every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time here on Blog Talk Radio's Women of Golf. Thank you, and have a great week, and good luck, ladies, at the tournament. And I will see you, and Cindy will see you next week right here on the Women of Golf. Thank you.